Chernobyl, one of the most infamous sites in history, has become an unlikely tourist hotspot. Known for the catastrophic nuclear disaster that occurred in 1986, the area surrounding Chernobyl remains abandoned and shrouded in mystery. But despite the dangers, travelers from around the world flock to this eerie location. What draws people to this haunting place, and why has it become a sought-after destination for dark tourism? In this video, we'll explore the reasons behind Chernobyl's enduring allure, the safety measures in place for visitors, and the haunting sites that continue to fascinate. Get ready to uncover the eerie allure of Chernobyl. Today, we'll talk about exploring Chernobyl and why it's still a tourist hotspot. So before we get started, make sure to hit that like button. Also subscribe to my channel. The Chernobyl disaster is one of the most infamous events in history, a nuclear catastrophe that forever altered the landscape and the lives of those involved. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant, located near the town of Pripyat in Ukraine, experienced one of the worst nuclear accidents the world has ever seen. The explosion and subsequent meltdown of Reactor 4 released radioactive materials into the environment, creating a massive exclusion zone that still exists to this day. But despite the haunting legacy of Chernobyl, it's become an unexpected tourist hotspot. People from all over the world flock to the abandoned towns, eerie landscapes, and ruins of this infamous site, often with the desire to witness history firsthand. So what draws thousands of visitors each year to a place that was once a symbol of disaster and devastation? How is it possible that this site, which is considered dangerous due to radiation, is still a popular destination for tourists? In this video, we'll explore the Chernobyl disaster, the allure of the site as a tourist hotspot, and the reasons why, despite its dark history, it continues to captivate the curiosity of travelers from across the globe. Stick around till the end because we'll also discuss the reality of visiting Chernobyl today, what you need to know how to stay safe, and why it's still a destination that many consider essential on their travel list. The Chernobyl disaster, a tragic event. On April 26, 1986, the world was shaken by one of the worst nuclear accidents in history. During a late-night safety test at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, a catastrophic failure occurred in Reactor 4. The explosion sent radioactive smoke and debris high into the atmosphere, spreading across Europe and beyond. The surrounding town of Pripyat, once home to the workers at the plant, was evacuated within hours, but not before thousands had already been exposed to dangerous levels of radiation. The aftermath of the disaster was nothing short of apocalyptic. The surrounding region, known as the Chernobyl exclusion zone, was abandoned and people were never allowed to return. The radiation levels in the area were so high that it would take centuries for the land to become habitable again, and large portions of this region remain a toxic wasteland. The Chernobyl disaster was an event that not only affected the people living near the plant, but also had far-reaching consequences for the world. The environment around Chernobyl is still contaminated, and the health effects continue to be felt, particularly among the first responders or liquidators who try to contain the damage. The incident also had major political, social, and economic implications, particularly for the Soviet Union, which was already under immense pressure during the Cold War. Why do people visit Chernobyl? Given the catastrophic history of Chernobyl, it's surprising that it's still a popular tourist destination. The allure of Chernobyl as a tourist hotspot is tied to a mixture of historical fascination, the desire to see the effects of the disaster up close, and the eerie, post-apocalyptic landscape that attracts curious travelers. One reason why people visit Chernobyl is to understand the scale of the disaster and its effects on the people who lived in the region. Many people around the world have heard of Chernobyl, but may not fully grasp the gravity of the event, and visiting the site allows them to witness firsthand the devastation that was caused. The Chernobyl exclusion zone itself, a 30-kilometer radius around the plant, is a stark reminder of the horrors that unfolded there. Another reason for Chernobyl's popularity is its unique, unsettling beauty. The decaying buildings, rusting Ferris wheels, and overgrown streets offer a glimpse into a forgotten world. The eerie quiet of Pripyat, the town closest to the plant, is a time capsule that's frozen in 1986. Tourists often find themselves captivated by the sight of abandoned schools, hospitals, and apartments, and the haunting silence that echoes and has become part of pop culture. The HBO miniseries Chernobyl, released in 2019, reignited public interest in the disaster, sparking a wave of tourism to the area. The show, which dramatizes the events of the disaster, brought the story to a new generation of viewers, many of whom were curious to see the real-life locations that played a central role in the disaster. What's it like to visit Chernobyl today? In the years following the Chernobyl disaster, the area was closed off to the public due to the high levels of radiation. But over the past 2 decades, the Ukrainian government has allowed controlled access to the Chernobyl exclusion zone for tourists. Nowadays, tourists can book a guided tour of the area, but only under strict regulations. These tours are carefully planned and monitored to ensure safety, and tourists are not allowed to wander freely through the zone. Visitors are typically taken by bus to Chernobyl and the surrounding area, accompanied by certified guides who have undergone specialized training to ensure their knowledge of the area's history and safety protocols. One of the first stops on most tours is the ghost town of Pripyat, where tourists can explore the remains of a once thriving community that is now a silent testament to the disaster. While the radiation levels in the area have decreased significantly since the 1986 explosion, they are still present. That said, most tours are considered safe as long as tourists follow the guidelines set by the authorities. These include wearing protective clothing, staying on the designated paths, and avoiding touching surfaces that may still be contaminated. Visitors are also advised not to take any food or drink outside of the designated areas, as ingesting even small amounts of contaminated particles could be dangerous. One of the most popular and surreal attractions in the exclusion zone is the Chernobyl nuclear power plant itself. The plant's reactor 4, which exploded, is now housed under a massive steel sarcophagus that was built to contain the radiation. Tourists can also visit the newly constructed New Safe Confinement, a massive structure designed to contain the reactor for the next 100 years and prevent the release of radiation. What are the risks of visiting Chernobyl? While the radiation levels in the Chernobyl exclusion zone are lower than they were immediately after the disaster, there are still risks involved with visiting the site. The primary danger comes from the so-called hotspots, areas with high radiation levels that can pose a serious health risk if exposure is prolonged. However, the tours are structured in such a way that visitors are not exposed to these hotspots for extended periods, and the radiation levels are generally considered safe for short visits. That said, anyone with a history of health problems, particularly those related to their immune system, might want to think twice before visiting. Even though the exposure to radiation is minimal on most tours, the effects of radiation can accumulate over time, and it's best to exercise caution. One of the primary concerns for tourists visiting Chernobyl is the potential for contamination. Though the Ukrainian authorities have strict safety protocols in place, some visitors may be concerned about unknowingly carrying radioactive particles back with them. This is why tourists are required to go through radiation scanners before and after their visit, ensuring that they are not carrying any contaminated particles with them when they leave the zone. Cultural impact and ethical considerations. As Chernobyl continues to attract more and more tourists, some have raised concerns about the ethics of visiting a place that was once the site of such immense human suffering. Is it right to turn a tragedy into a tourist attraction? The question of whether it's appropriate to visit such a place is one that often sparks debate. For many, visiting Chernobyl is a way of honoring the lives lost and educating themselves about one of the most significant events of the 20th century. Others, however, argue that it trivializes the pain and trauma experienced by those affected by the disaster, particularly the survivors who were forced to leave their homes and never return. At the same time, Chernobyl tourism has brought some positive changes to the region. The Ukrainian government has used the revenue from tourism to support the ongoing cleanup efforts and to fund the preservation of the site. It has also provided jobs to local people, especially those at the nearby towns who work as tour guides, drivers, and in hospitality services. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comments section below. Before you go, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.